I stand here on behalf of my party. Pradhan, Mr. Prime Minister, Honorable Prime Minister, I would really request you, since you've been here for the better half of 1 hour, ये भी सुनते हुए जाइए सर, डरिए मत, सर, डरिए मत, 2 बार आ गए सर. You came to my area twice during the campaign, sir. आज तो सुन के जाइए sir. Never mind, my bad luck. Honorable Speaker, sir, Rahul. Sir, Honorable Speaker, sir, my esteemed colleagues in this newly constituted 18th Lok Sabha, I stand here on behalf of my party, the All India Trinamool Congress. कोई बात नहीं, वो मेरे LOP है, वो मेरे LOP है, वो already मुझे सुन चुके हैं, वो मेरे LOP है. Honorable Speaker, sir, my esteemed colleagues, in this 18th Lok Sabha, I stand here on behalf of my party, the All India Trinamool Congress, to speak on the Honorable President's address. The last time I stood here, sir, I was not allowed to speak. I was not allowed to speak. आप लोगों ने अरे let me finish. Dimple, let me finish.
House
Guys,
order में आने की please.
Let me finish. हाँ, जिसको जाना है please जाइए, no problem. The last time I stood here, I was not allowed to speak. But the ruling party has paid a very heavy price for throttling the voice of one MP. मुझे बैठाने का चक्कर में जनता ने आपके 63 सदस्यों 63 जन को परमानेंटली बैठा दिया. You have gone down from 303 to 240. In my maiden speech in the Lok Sabha in June 2019, I spoke on the 7 signs of fascism that were taking over this country. 5 years to the date, on June 27, 2024, this House saw the unprecedented scene of the marshals welcoming the President of India, the Honorable President, with a Sengol in their hand. The Sengol is a symbol of the supreme authority of a monarch. It has no place in the temple of a constitutional democracy. But Honorable Speaker, sir, it is understandable why this happened. Because the BJP has still not understood that their 303 brute majority, their Rajtantra, has been reduced to a 240-seat minority by the Loktantra. They are still living in the world of the Sengol. This sudden changed reality, this new reality, is yet to sink in for the treasury benches and especially for the speechwriters of the Honorable President's address. The speech that the Honorable President read out, she said, the people of India have elected a stable government with a clear majority. Please do not embarrass the office of the President by using poorly edited cut and paste versions of old speeches. This is not a stable government. It depends on multiple allies with a history of U-turns. It has not got a simple majority. The BJP is 32 short of 272. It is going to be a very hard landing for the treasury benches, as was obvious today. This time, there are 234 warriors this time, firmly united, and we have walked through fire to walk through these doors, so you will not be able to shut us up this time the way you did last time. There are numerous statements in the Honorable President's address that defy even a tenuous link to truth and to reality. Like in my 2019 maiden speech when I spoke on 7 signs, today I have picked out 6 themes from the Honorable President's address, and I will analyze how each of them is an exercise in fallacy and exercise in untruth. The address covers many issues, but I have chosen 6 themes. The first theme, the Northeast. The Honorable President's address says that the government has increased allocation for the Northeast by 4 times, has worked for increased and lasting peace in the area. Now, I have one question. Why is the word Manipur nowhere in the speech? Why do we refer to the generic Northeast? During the Lok Sabha campaign, the BJP, the ruling party, the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned many words beginning with the letter M. Musalman, Mullah, Madrasa, Mughal, Mutton, Machli, Mujra, Mangal Sutra, but not once did they mention Manipur. We don't need to act east. The government says we want to act east. We don't need you to act east. Look east, walk east, and most important, embrace east. I stand here for my brothers and sisters of Manipur, and I quote the revolutionary poet Pablo Neruda. One morning the bonfires leapt out of the earth. One morning the bonfires leapt out of the earth, devouring human beings. And from then on the fire, from then on blood. Come, see the blood on the streets. Come, see the blood in the streets. Please go to Manipur, see the blood in the streets. The second theme in the President's address, women empowerment. The speech says, women in our country have been demanding greater representation in the Lok Sabha and Vidhan Sabhas, and today they stand empowered by the Women's Reservation Act. This is a complete untruth. Firstly, you conveniently delayed reservation for women in parliament because you actually fear women. Yes. You fear Nari Shakti. Yes. You want their support, but you certainly don't want us here. The 17th Lok Sabha had 78 women, 14.3%. The 18th Lok Sabha, this Lok Sabha has only 74 women. Yes. 4 women less than last time, only 13.6%. The ruling party, the BJP, had called a special session to bring in the women's reservation bill. They have got a shameful 30 women MPs out of 240, only 12.5%. It is only Mamata Banerjee's Trinamool Congress that in 2019 had 37%, and even this time has got 38%. The President's address talks of a comprehensive campaign by the government to enrich and make 3 crore women Lakhpati Didis. All that we have seen so far is a far more comprehensive campaign to make 1 Arabpati Dada. I'm sure I don't need to take his name in this house. I'm sure we all know who we are talking about. The third theme, Kashmir. The address mentions that after decades of shutdowns and strikes, the Kashmir Valley has voted in an atmosphere of stability and security. But if abrogating Section 370 was such a good idea, why did the ruling party, the BJP, not even dare to put up candidates in the 3 valley seats of Anantnag, Baramulla and Srinagar? If 370 was such a big deal and you were going to campaign on the basis of 370, you did not even dare to fight the seats. The Kashmir Valley has voted in MPs who were against your 2019 decision. You downgraded Ladakh into a union territory. You told them it was a temporary move. Today, 5 years later, the Ladakhis are still waiting. They have not got back their statehood. You have not given them a legislature. You have not included them in the 6th schedule. You have not given their demand of 2 separate seats of Leh and Kargil. As a result, in the current Lok Sabha, the Ladakhis have relegated you to 3rd position in the Lok Sabha. You lost it. The 4th theme in the Honorable President's address, the Election Commission of India. The speech expresses gratitude to the ECI for conducting the largest election in the world. With all humility, with no intent to denigrate the office of what used to be the august constitutional body of this land, let us as members of this opposition put on record that we won in spite of the EC, not because of it. The commissioners chosen by a government-dominated panel in willful disobedience of the Supreme Court turned a deaf ear to the most egregious violations of the Model Code of Conduct by the ruling party, by the Honorable Prime Minister with his hate-filled speeches and his divisive religion-based rhetoric. This country has been ashamed and disgusted by the language used against minorities during this campaign. This election will go down in history where an eager and compliant election commission turned a blind eye and a deaf ear against the excesses of the ruling party when the MCC was in effect. Opposition leaders were arrested, party accounts were frozen, ED and CBI even came into our election offices with impunity. Ultimately, the voters took charge and they said, "Bahut ho gaya. Enough is enough." The 5th theme, and here I have to commend the speechwriter's very dark, almost macabre sense of humor. The Indian Railways, aviation and infrastructure. The address says that work on the Ahmedabad-Mumbai bullet train is going on at a fast pace, and Indian Railways is doing feasibility studies for bullet train corridors in the north, in the south, in the east of India. Now I'm going to ask the government a question. Why are you, Honorable Chairperson? Is this a cruel joke? You are sanctioning 1,08,000 crores, 1,08,000 crores for one single Mumbai-Ahmedabad bullet train. A basic high-speed rail network costs 200 crores per kilometer. The Indian Railways is touting the Kavach anti-collision system. It's an automatic train protection system as the cheapest in the world, says 50 lakhs per kilometer is the cost. The total rail tracks in India is roughly about 126,000 kilometers. So the cost of covering all of India with Kavach is going to be 63,000 crores. All of India's Kavach costs 63,000 and one single Ahmedabad-Mumbai bullet train costs 1,08,000. Please look at the numbers. Last June in Balasore, 3 trains collided, 296 people died. The ministry said Kavach was not operational on that route. Last week, Kanchenjunga Express collided with a goods train in New Jalpaiguri. 10 people died. Again, the ministry said Kavach is not operational on the route. The Economic Times had a survey which said at the current level of funding, it will take 50 years for all of India to be covered under Kavach. And you're telling us about bullet trains. And please don't start shouting about what it was during Nehru's time. We don't know and we don't care. False equivalences cannot take the place of real body bags. The address mentions about how India is apparently the 3rd largest domestic aviation hub of the world. In truth, India's airports have become domestic hazard hubs. First in Jabalpur, then in Delhi, then in Rajkot. Newly constructed airports have canopies falling down, killing people. The newly constructed Rampath in Ayodhya has had 3 cave-ins in the last week. The Pragati Maidan tunnel is flooded. The Atal Setu has developed cracks. The Ram temple's roof is leaking. This is exactly what happens when infrastructure is poorly planned and rushed in order for photo opportunities by the Supreme Leader. The sixth theme, competitive cooperative federalism. Honorable Chairperson, sir, the last decade saw the most brutal government-sponsored throttling of cooperative federalism that this country has ever seen. I speak for my own state of West Bengal. The centre has withheld 7,000 crores in Manrega funds. 17 lakh households have been deprived for work already done. It has held back 8,200 crores under the rural housing scheme, over 11 lakh houses sanctioned but not paid. Another 1,000 crores has been held back in pension and PMGSY. A total of 16,000 crores. When we went to meet the Rural Development Minister, we were dragged out by the Delhi police and bundled into prison vans. Last week, as a delegation, we went to meet with Atishi of the AAP, who was on hunger strike. Look at what is happening in the AAP government in Delhi today. The Aam Aadmi is in power in Delhi. There was a 1994 water sharing agreement which mandated Haryana to release 613 million gallons of water per day to Delhi. Haryana is run by the BJP government, and they have reneged on this agreement. They are releasing 100 million gallons less per day, as a result of which 28 lakh people in Delhi are having to go without water per day. This government's competitive cooperative federalism seems to be an exercise in how to compete on how to choke opposition-run states. भैया हमको बैठाना आप पे बहुत भारी पड़ा, हमको मत बिठाइए, बहुत भारी पड़ा आप पे, बहुत भारी पड़ा।